Hello girls and squirrels, happy Friday and welcome back to my channel. As you guys know, I have a series on my channel called History of, and this is a series where I go over popular brands and the history of their clothing throughout the decades. Now today's video is going to be centered all around Levi's. That being said, Levi's is a very extensive brand. There is so much to know about Levi's, so I decided to break this particular brand into smaller videos so that way the amount of information in one video A, doesn't take up an hour, and B, it's not an overload of information. So today we're going to be focusing on the Levi's tab, that famous red tab. We're going to go over the big E and the little e, what the difference is, and also the different color tabs throughout the decades. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. There is so much knowledge and I don't want to get anything wrong. So let's start with big E and little e. So when Levi's patent expired in 1890, competitors such as Stronghold, Boss of the Road, and Can't Bust 'Em started manufacturing riveted denim jeans. Now a rivet is that little thing that kind of looks like a little snap on the pockets of Levi's jeans. This was actually invented by Levi's, but because their patent expired in 1890, other brands were allowed to take this idea and basically run with it. It also had a big patch on the waistband and were the color blue. So at this point, nothing was setting Levi's apart from other jeans. So naturally frustrated, the national sales manager of Levi's, Chris Lucier, came up with the idea of the little red tab on the back pocket with the word Levi's stitched in white. So that way anyone could tell immediately that you were wearing Levi's. So this set them apart from other jean companies. The first big E red tab appeared in 1936 and was produced all the way until 1971. This is what that tab looks like. As you can see, the word Levi's is in all caps. So in 1971, the tab was changed to Levi's written in lowercase instead of uppercase. But the only extremely noticeable letter change was the E. So that's why in the vintage world, we call it the big E and the little e. So from 1936 to 1971, that was the era of the big E, and anything after that has a small e. So here's a little fun fact for you. You might come across a pair of Levi's with a tab that only has the trademark symbol. So it doesn't say Levi's on it. It just has that little trademark circle on it. Now, before you write it off as a counterfeit pair of jeans, you might want to take a closer look because since the tab is copied so much and counterfeited so much, it requires extra legal force from Levi's and their right to market clothes with the tab. Therefore, they have to produce a certain percentage of Levi's products with a plain tab and just the trademark symbol to show that Levi's owns the trademark rights to the tab itself and not just the word Levi's. So keep that in mind if you happen to come across a pair of Levi's with the plain red tab with just that trademark symbol. Now let's get into the different color tabs and what they mean. There's 4 different color tabs other than the traditional red tab. So there's the orange tab, the white tab, the black and gold tab, and the silver tab. So let's start with the orange tab. In the 1960s, Levi's wanted to differentiate other kinds of Levi's from the standard 501s. This was the birth of their fashion denim, which means shirts, jeans, hats, flares, and boot cuts. The orange tab Levi's made their first appearance in 1969. The orange tab line offered a different method of stitching and overall appearance that the red tab didn't. According to Levi Strauss & Co. blog editors, the stitching method used for the orange tab Levi's was used from 1969 to 1999. Now, something to note is Levi's in Europe actually does make reproductions of the vintage orange tab jeans, but one way to tell, just in case you do come across a modern piece, early orange tab jeans do not have a care label because care labels weren't enforced in the US until 1971. So beyond on the lookout for the care labels. This makes the difference between a pair of 1960s jeans and a pair of 1970s to present day jeans. So here's another little fun fact for you. In 1999, Levi's incorporated the old style red tab sewing methods with the orange tabs methods to create a single sewing method for all of their jeans going forward. The production of both methods independently stopped at this point, and the new consolidated method appeared. Red tab jeans that you see on shelves today are a product of the new consolidated sewing method. But again, in 2001, Levi's in Europe introduced a new vintage line of jeans inspired by sewing methods of the past. So it's not impossible for you to find a modern day piece that has all these elements if it came from Europe, but if you're shopping in the US, most likely you won't run into this, but it is something to keep in mind. Now let's move on to the white tab. This is a little white tab with black lettering. It's more specifically known for their corduroy jeans and jackets, but it's also found on the 1960s and 70s Levi's for Gals collection. Now this is a collection that's a little bit harder to find, but if you do get lucky enough to find it, this is what the tag looks like, and it does have that white tab with the black lettering. Moving on to the black tab. The black tab is black with gold metallic stitched lettering. This tab is found on pants that went through the sta pressed or STA pressed. I don't really know how to say that. Editing Christina here. I am now realizing that I was trying to make it way harder than it is. I think it's stay pressed. Like, that makes sense, right? Stay pressed. They're wrinkle guarded. They're, you don't have to press them. Moving on. And it's supposed to make the pants non-iron, so basically it was just a wrinkle guard version of Levi's. So last but not least, in 1988, the silver tab was introduced. Now, this is a little gray tag with white letter stitching. From baggy jeans to street-inspired denim, the silver tab defined the late 80s and early 90s grunge denim. One thing to note about the silver tab jeans, they don't feature the typical Levi's patch on the waist. They do have a patch on the waist, but it says silver tab instead. And on the inside, it reads baggy. And then there's a special silver tab logo tag on the inside waistband. And then the typical white Levi's care tag is featured underneath that. So something I do want to mention very quickly is the signature line by Levi's. Now, this is typically overlooked by vintage buyers if they're not well educated on the Levi's brand, and also it can be overlooked by vintage sellers if they're not educated on this line as well. So right off the bat, the signature line can be recognized by seeing that there is no tab on the pocket. It just has the large patch on the waistband, no tab on the pocket. The Levi's signature range is still in production today and was started in the early 2000s as a cheaper diffusion line. It's sold in stores like Walmart, Kmart, and Amazon, so don't expect the same quality as a pair of jeans that does feature the tab. Alrighty, and that does it for all the tabs, what big E and little e means. I hope you guys learned a little something. If you guys have any more information on the different tabs or the big E and the little e, please feel free to leave that knowledge down in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. And stay tuned for the next Levi's video. We're going to be talking about how to tell whether a Levi's piece is vintage or not. So make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on that video. Also, be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. I make new videos every Wednesday and Friday, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday? Today's Friday. Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye, guys.